A boy asked, "Dad, if 3 frogs were sitting on a limb that hung over a pool and one frog decided to jump off into the pool, how many frogs would be left on the limb?" The dad replied, 2. "No," the son replied. "There's 3 frogs and one decides to jump. How many are left?" The dad said, "Oh, I get it. If one decides to jump, the others would too. So there are none left." The boy said, "No, Dad. The answer is still 3 because the frog only decided to jump." Does that sound like last year's resolutions? Decisions we never got round to following all the way through. When I think back to some of my own past New Year resolutions, I feel like Charlie Brown in a Peanuts comic strip. Lucy says that life is like a deck chair, that some people place their chair so they can see where they're going, or they place it so they can see where they have been, and they place it to see where they are at present. Charlie Brown's reply was, "I can't even get mine unfolded." We all seem to know that feeling well. We decide to lose weight, we decide to go to the gym, we decide to declutter our garage, we decide all sorts of things, but when it comes to it, we cannot even unfold the chair. We don't feel like it. We haven't got the energy. A few days into January and we're already losing the will to live. Yet we feel the pressure to make decisions. Time is so important to us because we live in a limited time frame, and at this time of the year, because life is uncertain, we feel we must take advantage of the time that we do have. Did you know that Cyril Cusack was nearly chosen to be the first Doctor Who? William Hartland got the part instead, but Cyril Cusack, an established and well-respected actor, once said, "If you ask me for my New Year resolution, it would be to find out who I am." We don't know his surname, but Paul wrote many of the New Testament books, and in Philippians chapter 3 he wrote, "One thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal." Interesting that he should want to forget about his past, because we do know that he had persecuted the church, killing many Christians. By his own admission, he had said, "I am chief of sinners." But had he walked around all his life with his burden of guilt crippling him, he would never have moved on in his life and would have never written the inspired teachings we can read today. So having sought forgiveness for the sins of his past, he's looking forward to what lies ahead. As in computer games, he wanted to go on to the next level. Resolutions then are not new, but in a society where there is much pressure and we often end up making unrealistic resolutions, it is refreshing to think that we can keep it simple, that, for example, it is okay to make just one resolution. In saying, "This one thing I do," Paul's top priority in his life is to press on toward the goal. In a paraphrase of the Bible called The Message, these very same words are quoted as saying that he does not claim to be an expert, that he does not have it all together yet, but that he feels he's getting there with God's help. Paul feels he's on the right track and wants to stay focused on it. He's definitely well on his way to finding who he is. The story is told about a woman who ran out of money. She couldn't pay her rent. She couldn't pay any of her bills. The landlord had threatened to throw her out if she didn't pay soon. A too familiar story. She had only a candle to keep her warm, and on Christmas Day she warmed her hands over the candle. A knock came at the door, and she was afraid to answer for fear that it was the landlord coming to kick her out of her humble abode. So she blew out her candle and sat quietly in the dark and waited for the intruder to leave. 2 weeks later she found out that the knock on the door had been the knock of a dear friend who had come to bring her enough money to pay her rent and pay her debts. I wonder what that woman's New Year resolution might have been about. Whether you make a New Year resolution this year or not, I pray, hoping that, as the song from A Clearing in the Snow says, peace on earth and goodwill to men will last the long year through, and that God will be with you in all you do. Happy New Year.
Visit our website, gravityfm.net. Local radio for local people.
On Gravity FM.